Hey, welcome. And seriously, thank you for carving out some time to dig into a pretty deep question with us. Have you ever stopped to think that your car, yeah, that thing you drive every day, could actually be saying something profound about who you are? Today, we're going to connect the roar of a gas engine and the hum of an electric motor to some of the biggest, oldest questions in philosophy. So let's buckle up and go for a bit of a philosophical drive.
So let's just start right here with this big idea. What if your car isn't just about getting from point A to point B, or about status, or even just what you happen to like? What if, deep down, it's a statement about how you view the world, what you think virtue is, and maybe even truth itself?
All right, to unpack this, we got to go way back. I want you to imagine the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates just standing there in a modern car dealership. What would he think about our choices? Specifically, that big one, gas or electric?
Okay, so for a guy like Socrates, the decision would be all about pure, cold, hard reason. And when you just look at the numbers, the choice is, well, it's kind of staring you right in the face. A gas engine, a thermal engine, wastes most of its energy as heat and noise. It only turns about 20 to 35% of its fuel into actual movement. But an electric engine, it's just ridiculously efficient, converting 90 to 95% of its energy into getting you down the road. For a philosopher who puts logic above everything else, this isn't even a contest.
And this all boils down to a core Socratic idea called arete, which basically means virtue or excellence. See, Socrates had this famous belief that virtue is knowledge. If you truly know the right thing to do, you just do it. It's almost automatic. So in our car example, knowing that one machine is just way, way more efficient, that it does the job with less waste, well, choosing it becomes the only virtuous, the only logical thing to do.
And that leads us to this classic Socratic-style challenge. It basically asks, look, if you knew there was a better way to move, a way that wasted less, would you honestly keep burning up precious gas just for a loud noise? It's such a sharp question, right? It just cuts through all the emotion and marketing, and pretty much calls our love for engine rumble a kind of willful ignorance.
But we can take this even further. Let's pull out one of the most famous metaphors in all of philosophy, Plato's allegory of the cave. But, let's give it a 21st century update for the garage.
So in this modern version of the cave, the roar of a big engine, the vibration you feel, that's what the Greeks called doxa, or popular opinion. It's the shadows on the cave wall. They're just sensory distractions that we mistake for the real thing, for real power. But from a purely rational standpoint, that noise is nothing more than evidence of wasted energy. It's a technical flaw, not a feature.
And this all leads to what the source calls the lethal question, and it's a real killer. Who is actually more powerful? The one making all the racket, or the one who gets the job done with quiet, perfect efficiency? From that Socratic viewpoint, the answer is crystal clear. True power is efficient, rational, and silent. Case closed, right?
Well, maybe it's not that simple. Is progress really just about picking the better, more efficient tool every single time? Because it turns out that this exact way of thinking, seeing the world as just a big collection of resources for us to optimize, it creates a whole new world of problems. And this brings us to a really interesting twist, a kind of irony that lives right inside the modern environmental movement. It's a perspective that really complicates that simple, rational choice Socrates would have made. So check this out. On the surface, you've got two people who seem like total opposites, right? The factory owner who sees nature as a resource to exploit for money, and the pro-environment politician who sees nature as something to be saved. But here's the twist. The source argues they actually share the exact same fundamental worldview. Both of them treat nature like an external object, a tool to be used. One uses it for cash, the other uses it for political points or to feel moral. And that forces us to ask this really crucial question here. Are we trying to save nature because we see it as an inseparable part of our very existence? Or has it just become another tool we use to make ourselves feel good, to satisfy our own need to feel virtuous? You see, when we start treating nature like an object, it has this huge consequence. It completely disconnects us from it. It sort of turns us into tourists in our own world, instead of people who actually live in a home.
The source gives this perfect example. Think about a tourist at Lake Como in Italy. They see a beautiful backdrop, an attraction to take pictures of and consume. But for someone who grew up on its shores, it's not an attraction. It's just home. It's woven into the fabric of their daily life, and that deep, lived-in connection is a world away from seeing nature as a pretty picture.
And when we make caring for the environment a political issue, we lose something really important. Simple things like not littering or recycling your trash suddenly stop being basic civic duties. The simple stuff you do to take care of your home. Instead, they become partisan statements. We start to outsource the real responsibility to politicians and giant abstract solutions, and we just get more and more detached ourselves. So now we have these two really compelling arguments that seem to contradict each other. On one hand, you've got the Socratic push for pure, rational technological progress, and on the other, a powerful critique that says that very same way of thinking is what's alienating us from the world. So, is there a way to put these two ideas together? Can we build a better bridge?
For a possible way forward, the source turns to a 20th century philosopher named Martin Heidegger. He was really concerned with how technology changes our relationship to everything around us. And he used this powerful example of two different man-made things to show two totally different ways we can relate to nature.
So on one side, you have a hydroelectric power plant. It's built into the river. It dams it up, it challenges it, it extracts its energy, and it degrades it. It treats the river purely as a resource to be used. But then on the other side, you have an old wooden bridge. It doesn't challenge the river, it joins the riverbanks. It works with the landscape, harmonizing with it, maybe even adding to its beauty. Both are technologies, right? But the spirit behind them is worlds apart.
And this suggests that maybe a real solution has to walk down two paths at the same time. We absolutely need that first Socratic path of technological innovation, finding cleaner energy, making better, more efficient things. But we also need that second, civic path. We have to rebuild that sense of home, that feeling of belonging, so that caring for our environment isn't a political statement, it's just what you do. It's taking care of your own backyard. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. It's easy to build power plants, to use, to extract, to optimize. It's a lot harder to build bridges, to connect, to harmonize, to belong. So, as we move forward, maybe the big question for all of us is, can we learn to build our future with the spirit of that bridge and not just the raw logic of the power plant? Thanks so much for your time and for joining us on this drive.